The marble floors of the Castellano estate gleamed under the morning sun, each tile reflecting light like captured diamonds. I moved across them on my hands and knees, scrubbing with a precision born of desperation rather than pride. My back ached a dull, constant throb that had become my companion over the past 3 months. At 18 weeks pregnant, my body was changing in ways that made every task harder, every movement more deliberate. You missed a spot. I looked up to find Vanessa Castellano, soon to be Vanessa Rossi, standing above me in cream silk pajamas that probably cost more than I'd make in 6 months. Her blonde hair fell in perfect waves over her shoulders, her manicured nails tapping against her phone screen as she barely glanced at me. "Yes, Miss Castellano," I said quietly, moving to the area she'd indicated. There was no spot. There never was. But I'd learned in my 8 months working here that arguing with Vanessa was like arguing with the tide, pointless and exhausting. She made a dismissive sound in her throat and walked away, her bare feet leaving faint prints on the floor I'd just cleaned. I waited until she disappeared up the grand staircase before sitting back on my heels, pressing one hand against my lower back and the other against the small bump hidden beneath my oversized uniform. "We're okay," I whispered to the life growing inside me. "Just a few more hours, then we rest." If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Drop a comment telling me where in the world you're watching from. I love hearing from you. My name is Elena Martinez, and 6 months ago, I thought I had my life figured out. I was going to marry Marcus, my high school sweetheart. We were going to have a family, build a life together. Then I told him I was pregnant, and he was gone before I could even process the word congratulations. No forwarding address, no explanation, just a text message that said, "I'm not ready to be a father," and a blocked number. So here I was, 23 years old, pregnant and alone, working 3 jobs to keep a roof over my head and save for the baby coming in 4 months. Days, I cleaned houses for wealthy families in the Connecticut suburbs. Evenings, I worked as a cashier at a 24-hour grocery store. And 3 nights a week, from midnight to 6 in the morning, I stocked shelves at a warehouse 40 minutes away. The Castellano estate was my best-paying job, which was why I couldn't afford to lose it, no matter how Vanessa treated me. $200 for 8 hours of work, twice a week. It was good money, even if it came with the cost of my dignity. I finished the floors and moved to the kitchen, a massive space of stainless steel and white marble that looked like something from a magazine. Maria, the head housekeeper, was already there, preparing breakfast. She was in her 60s, with kind eyes and hands weathered from decades of service. "You look tired, Mija," she said in Spanish, her native language and mine. "Did you sleep last night?" I shook my head, accepting the glass of water she pressed into my hands. "Warehouse shift. I got home at 7, showered, and came straight here." Maria's face creased with worry. "That's not good for the baby, Elena. You need rest." "I need money more," I replied, drinking the water gratefully. "The baby won't care how tired I am if we're homeless." Before Maria could respond, footsteps echoed through the kitchen. We both straightened instinctively as Alessandro Rossi walked in, and the entire room seemed to shift, the air growing denser, charged with an energy I couldn't name. I'd seen him before, of course. He came to the estate every few days to see Vanessa, his fiancée. But I'd never been this close to him, never in the same room without other staff members as a buffer. He was tall, easily over 6 feet, with dark hair swept back from his face and eyes so dark they looked black in certain light. He wore a suit even at 8 in the morning, charcoal gray with a white shirt open at the collar, no tie. Everything about him screamed power and danger in equal measure. "Morning, Maria," he said, his voice deep and slightly rough, as if he hadn't been awake long. Then his eyes moved to me, and I felt pinned under that gaze, like a butterfly on a collector's board. "I don't think we've met. This is Elena, Mr. Rossi," Maria said quickly. "She helps with the house twice a week." I nodded, keeping my eyes lowered. "Sir, Elena?" he repeated, and something about the way he said my name made my stomach flutter in a way that had nothing to do with morning sickness. "How long have you worked here?" 8 months, sir." He nodded slowly, still watching me with an intensity that made my skin prickle with awareness. "You do good work. The house is always immaculate on the days you're here." The compliment surprised me so much. I looked up, meeting his eyes. Big mistake. Up close, they weren't black at all, but a deep brown with flecks of gold, and they were focused on me with a concentration that made me feel transparent, as if he could see right through to all my secrets and fears. "Thank you, sir," I managed. Vanessa's voice cut through the moment like a knife. "Alessandro, there you are. I've been looking everywhere for you." She swept into the kitchen in a different outfit now, designer jeans and a cashmere sweater that probably cost more than my monthly rent. She moved straight to Alessandro, wrapping her arms around his neck and pressing a kiss to his jaw. He accepted the affection with the ease of long practice, though I noticed he didn't return the embrace, his hands remaining in his pockets. "I was getting coffee," he said. "Maria makes it better than anyone." Vanessa's eyes flickered to me, then away, as if I were a piece of furniture. "Well, come on. We have that meeting with the wedding planner in an hour, and I need your input on the floral arrangements." "I'll be there in a minute," Alessandro said, his tone patient but firm. "I wanted to speak with Maria about the household budget." Vanessa's expression tightened, but she knew better than to argue. "Fine. Don't take too long." She swept out as dramatically as she'd entered, leaving a cloud of expensive perfume in her wake. Alessandro turned back to Maria, but his eyes kept drifting to me as he spoke about mundane things, grocery orders, maintenance schedules, staff payments. I kept my head down, organizing cleaning supplies under the sink, trying to be invisible. But I could feel his attention like heat from a flame, impossible to ignore. Finally, he left, and I released a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. "That man," Maria said quietly, "is very dangerous, Elena, but not in the way you might think." I looked at her questioningly. "He sees things," she continued, her voice barely above a whisper. "Things other people miss. And once he sees you, really sees you, everything changes." Her words sent a chill down my spine, but I pushed the feeling away. Alessandro Rossi was engaged to Vanessa Castellano. He lived in a world so far removed from mine we might as well be on different planets. Whatever Maria thought she saw, it didn't matter. I was here to work, to earn money, to build a life for my baby. Nothing more. The rest of the day passed in a blur of cleaning and organizing. By 3 o'clock, my entire body ached, and the baby was pressing against my bladder in a way that made me need to pee every 20 minutes. I was finishing up the last bedroom when Vanessa found me. "Elena," she said, her tone clipped. "I need to speak with you." My stomach sank. Nothing good ever came from those words in that tone. I followed her down to the first floor, to a sitting room I'd never been in before. It was all white furniture and crystal accents, the kind of room designed to intimidate rather than comfort. Vanessa perched on the edge of a chair, her posture perfect, her expression cold. "I've been observing your work," she began, "and I'm not satisfied with your performance." I blinked, confused. I don't understand, Miss Castellano. Has there been a problem with my cleaning?" "Your work is adequate," she said, waving a hand dismissively. "But your attitude concerns me. You seem tired, distracted. You take too many breaks." "I only take my scheduled break," I protested gently. 30 minutes for lunch, as arranged with Maria." Her eyes narrowed. "Are you arguing with me?" "No, Miss Castellano. I'm just... You're lazy." She cut in, her voice sharp as glass. "And I won't have lazy people working in my home. Effective immediately. Your services are no longer required." The words hit me like a physical blow. "What? No, please, I need this job." "That's not my problem," Vanessa said, standing. "Maria will give you your final payment. I want you gone within the hour." Panic clawed at my throat. "Miss Castellano, please. If I've done something wrong, I can fix it. I'll work harder. This conversation is over." She started toward the door, then paused, looking back at me with something like satisfaction in her eyes. "And don't bother asking for a reference. I wouldn't want to saddle another employer with someone so unreliable." She left me standing there, my hands trembling, my vision blurring with tears I refused to let fall. $200, twice a week, $400 a month. That was my margin for error. The money that would let me save for the baby's arrival, for diapers, and formula, and all the thousands of things I'd need. Without it, I was drowning. I found Maria in the kitchen, and her face crumpled when she saw my expression. "Mija, what happened?" "She fired me," I whispered. Vanessa fired me for being lazy. Maria pulled me into her arms, and I let myself break for just a moment, pressing my face against her shoulder and breathing in the comforting scent of her lavender perfume. "That girl," Maria muttered darkly. "She has no heart, no soul. She sees everyone as beneath her. I can't lose this job, I said, pulling back and wiping my eyes. I need the money, Maria. The baby, I know. She pressed an envelope into my hands. Here. Your payment for today, plus 2 extra weeks. It's all I can give you without raising questions. I looked down at the envelope, emotion clogging my throat. Thank you. Listen to me, Elena. Maria gripped my shoulders, her eyes fierce. You are strong. You are capable. You will survive this, and so will your baby. Do you understand? I nodded, not trusting my voice. Good. Now go home, rest, and tomorrow, you find another job, a better job, working for people who see your worth. I gathered my things from the small locker in the staff quarters, moving like a robot, my mind numb with shock and fear. As I walked through the house one last time, heading toward the service entrance, I heard voices from Alessandro's study, the door slightly ajar. Absolutely ridiculous, Alessandro. The girl was practically falling asleep, standing up. Vanessa's voice, defensive and sharp. So you fired her? Alessandro's voice was calm, but there was something underneath it, a current of steel. Without discussing it with me, she worked for my father's household, not yours. I don't need your permission to fire the help. Elena Martinez, Alessandro said, and my name in his mouth made me freeze in the hallway. 23 years old. Been working here for 8 months. Impeccable references from her previous employers. Never missed a day of work. Never complained. Never caused problems. And you fired her for being tired? How do you know all that? Vanessa's tone had shifted, uncertain now. I know everything that happens in properties connected to my family, Alessandro replied. It's my business to know. Just like it's my business to know that Elena works 3 jobs, including night shifts at a warehouse. She's supporting herself alone, with no family help, no safety net. And she's pregnant. Silence. My heart hammered against my ribs. How did he know? How could he possibly know? She's pregnant? Vanessa's voice was shrill now. She never said, why would she? It's none of your business. Alessandro's voice had gone quiet, which somehow made it more terrifying. And even if you didn't know, even if you couldn't see how exhausted she was, how hard she was working, firing her without cause, without notice, without compassion, that's not the woman I thought I was marrying. You're taking her side over mine? Vanessa's disbelief was palpable. Over some maid? I'm taking the side of basic human decency, Alessandro said, which apparently is something you need to learn. I should have left. I should have walked out the door and never looked back. But something kept me frozen in place, my heart in my throat, listening to a man I barely knew defend me with a ferocity that made my chest ache. Find Elena, Alessandro said, his voice carrying the weight of absolute command. Apologize, offer her job back with a raise. And Vanessa, if you ever pull something like this again, we're going to have a very different conversation about the future of this engagement. Footsteps, coming toward the door. I ran. I made it to the service entrance, my hands shaking so badly I could barely turn the doorknob. The early September air hit my face, cooler than I expected, and I gulped it down like water, trying to calm my racing heart. Elena, wait. Alessandro's voice stopped me mid-step. I turned slowly, finding him standing in the doorway, his expression unreadable in the fading afternoon light. Mr. Rossi, My voice cracked. I should go. I don't want to cause any more problems. He descended the steps with the grace of a predator, closing the distance between us until he stood close enough that I had to tilt my head back to meet his eyes. Up close, I could see the shadow of stubble along his jaw, the faint scar above his left eyebrow, the way his shirt collar revealed just a hint of a tattoo at his collarbone. You're not causing problems, he said quietly. Vanessa is coming to apologize and offer your position back. I shook my head, tears burning behind my eyes. I can't work here anymore, Mr. Rossi. Not after. I gestured helplessly. It would be too uncomfortable. For everyone. Then work for me. The words hung in the air between us, incomprehensible for a moment. What? Alessandro reached into his jacket and withdrew a business card, pressing it into my palm. His fingers were warm against my cold skin, and the brief contact sent electricity up my arm. I have a home in Greenwich, about 20 minutes from here. I need someone to manage the household, coordinate with vendors, oversee other staff, handle the day-to-day operations. It's a live-in position, 5 days a week, with your own suite and full benefits, including health insurance. I stared at the card, his name embossed in black letters. Alessandro Rossi, Rossi Enterprises. Below it, a phone number and an address. I don't understand, I whispered. Why would you? Because you're a hard worker who deserves better than this, he said simply. And because I don't like injustice. His eyes dropped briefly to my stomach, hidden beneath my loose uniform, especially not against someone who's already fighting an uphill battle. Shame and gratitude warred in my chest. You know, I know a lot of things. His voice was gentle now, almost tender. I know you work yourself to exhaustion to provide for your child. I know you have no one to help you. And I know that what Vanessa did today was cruel and unnecessary. She's your fiancée. Something flickered across his face, resignation, perhaps, or regret. Yes, she is. Then how can you offer me a job? Won't that make things worse between you? Let me worry about Vanessa. He tilted his head, studying me. The question is, will you accept? The salary is $60,000 a year, plus room and board. Health insurance that covers prenatal care and delivery. You wouldn't need your other jobs. $60,000. I made $23,000 working 3 jobs that were slowly killing me. The offer was impossible, ridiculous, too good to be true. What's the catch? I asked, my voice barely audible. Alessandro's lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. The catch is that you'll be working in my home, which means you'll be part of my world. And my world can be complicated. Complicated how? He was quiet for a moment, and I saw him weighing his words, deciding how much truth to give me. I'm not just a businessman, Elena. My family has interests that some people consider questionable. Working for me means accepting that you might see things, hear things that you'll need to keep confidential. Understanding dawned slowly. The whispers I'd heard from other staff members about the Rossi family, the way people spoke Alessandro's name with a mixture of respect and fear, the men in dark suits who sometimes accompanied him, it all made terrible sense. You're in the mafia, I said flatly. I prefer to think of it as a family business with unconventional methods. His expression was serious now, all traces of humor gone. But yes, so if that's something you can't accept, if it frightens you too much, I understand. You can walk away right now, no hard feelings. I should have run. Every rational part of my brain screamed at me to thank him politely and leave, to find some other way to survive that didn't involve working for a mob boss. But I thought of my baby, growing inside me, depending on me to provide safety and stability. I thought of my empty bank account, my overdue rent, the constant exhaustion that made my bones ache. And I thought of the way Alessandro had defended me to Vanessa, the way he'd looked at me with something like respect, like I mattered. I'm not afraid of hard work, I said slowly. And I'm good at keeping secrets. When do I start? The smile he gave me then was genuine, transforming his face from intimidating to almost boyish. Tonight, if you're willing, I'll have someone collect your things from your apartment and move them to the house. You can rest, settle in, and we'll discuss specifics in the morning. Tonight? I echoed, stunned by the speed of it all. Unless you have obligations? I thought of my tiny studio apartment with its broken heater and questionable plumbing, of my warehouse shift starting at midnight, of the grocery store manager who would barely notice if I never showed up again. No, I said. No obligations. Good. Alessandro pulled out his phone, typing rapidly. My driver will take you home to pack essentials. He'll bring you to the Greenwich house by 7. I'll meet you there. He turned to leave, then paused, looking back at me. Elena, thank you for giving me a chance to make this right. I watched him walk back into the house, my mind reeling, the business card still warm in my hand. Somewhere inside, I heard Vanessa's raised voice, shrill with anger, and Alessandro's deeper tones, calm and immovable as stone. What had I just agreed to? The driver, a mountain of a man named Marco who barely spoke, picked me up an hour later in a black SUV with windows so tinted I couldn't see out. He waited patiently in the car while I climbed the 3 flights of stairs to my apartment, each step making my back ache and my breath come shorter. My apartment was exactly as I'd left it that morning. The twin bed with its worn sheets, the kitchenette barely big enough to turn around in, the bathroom with tiles that had probably been white once, but were now a dingy gray no amount of scrubbing could fix. Everything I owned fit into 2 suitcases and a cardboard box. I packed quickly, methodically, clothes, toiletries, the few photographs I had of my parents before they died when I was 12, the ultrasound image of my baby that I kept taped to my bathroom mirror, 16 weeks along in the photo. Just a grainy blur of gray and white, but unmistakably human, unmistakably mine. I'm giving you a better life, I whispered to the image before tucking it carefully into my purse. I promise. Marco carried my things down to the SUV without comment, loading them into the trunk with the efficiency of someone used to moving people and their belongings quickly and quietly. As we pulled away from my building, I looked back at the grimy windows, the rust on the fire escape, the broken security door that never locked properly. I didn't feel sad to leave. I felt relieved. The drive to Greenwich took exactly 22 minutes. We wound through increasingly affluent neighborhoods, past manicured lawns and gates that promised privacy and security. Finally, Marco turned onto a private road, marked only by a discreet brass plate, Rossi. The house, no. The estate sprawled across what must have been 10 acres of pristine landscape. It was modern glass and stone, 3 stories of clean lines and floor-to-ceiling windows that glowed golden in the twilight. Nothing like the ornate, old-money elegance of the Castellano mansion. This was power dressed in minimalist sophistication. Holy shit, I breathed. Marco's lips twitched in what might have been amusement. Mr. Rossi will meet you inside. I'll bring your things to your suite. The front door opened before I could knock, revealing a woman in her 40s with sharp eyes and a professional demeanor. Elena Martinez? I'm Catherine, Mr. Rossi's personal assistant. Welcome. She led me through an entry hall with marble floors and a chandelier that probably cost more than I'd make in 5 years, into a living room that could have housed my entire apartment building. Everything was sleek, modern, expensive furniture that looked uncomfortable but probably cost a fortune. Abstract art on the walls, windows overlooking a pool that glowed turquoise in the gathering darkness. Mr. Rossi will join you shortly, Catherine said. Can I get you anything? Water? Tea? Water would be great, thank you. She disappeared, leaving me alone in the cavernous space. I sank onto the edge of a leather sofa, acutely aware of my cheap work clothes, my tangled hair, the exhaustion that made my bones feel like lead. I didn't belong here. I would never belong here. Second thoughts? I looked up to find Alessandro standing in the doorway, having shed his jacket and tie. He'd rolled his sleeves up, revealing forearms corded with muscle and decorated with tattoos I couldn't quite make out from this distance. He looked younger like this, less intimidating, almost approachable. About 1,000 of them, I admitted. He smiled, moving to sit in the chair across from me, close, but not crowding. That's fair. This is a big change. Why are you really doing this? The question burst out before I could stop it. You don't know me. You don't owe me anything. So why? Alessandro was quiet for a long moment, his dark eyes studying me with an intensity that made my skin prickle. My mother, he said finally, died when I was 12. Cancer. My father had resources, money, the best doctors in the world. But before she got sick, before my father built his empire, they struggled. She worked 3 jobs to keep food on the table while he built his business. She sacrificed everything for us. His voice was soft, but there was steel underneath. When I saw you today, exhausted and pregnant and still fighting, you reminded me of her. And I thought, if someone had given her a hand up instead of just watching her drown, maybe she would have lived long enough to see what we built. The raw honesty of it stole my breath. I'm sorry about your mother. Don't be sorry. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. Just promise me you'll take care of yourself and that baby. That's all the payment I need. Catherine returned with water and what looked like a full dinner spread on a rolling cart. I took the liberty of ordering from Antonio's, she said. I assumed you hadn't eaten. The smell of fresh bread and pasta sauce made my stomach growl audibly. I flushed with embarrassment, but Alessandro just laughed. Eat, he said, standing. Catherine will show you to your suite when you're finished. We'll talk logistics in the morning, after you've rested. For tonight, just settle in and know that you're safe here. He was almost to the door when I called out. Mr. Rossi? He turned back. Alessandro. Please. Alessandro. His name felt strange on my tongue, intimate in a way that Mr. Rossi hadn't been. Thank you. For everything. The smile he gave me was warm, genuine, and tinged with something I couldn't quite identify. Get some rest, Elena. You're home now. If you're hooked on this story, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Your support means everything and helps me bring you more emotional stories like this one. My suite was on the second floor, overlooking the pool and gardens. It wasn't a bedroom, it was an apartment. A king-size bed with linens so soft they felt like clouds, a sitting area with a fireplace, a bathroom with heated floors and a tub big enough to swim in, and a walk-in closet currently empty, except for my 2 pathetic suitcases that Marco had delivered. I stood in the center of the bedroom, slowly turning in a circle, trying to process that this space was mine, that I could stay here, sleep here, build a life here. The baby kicked, a flutter against my ribs that made me press my hand to my stomach. "What do you think?" I whispered. "Did Mama make the right choice?" Another kick, stronger this time. I chose to interpret it as approval. I showered in the enormous bathroom, standing under water pressure that actually worked, using soap that smelled like lavender and vanilla instead of the generic dollar store brand I was used to. I washed my hair twice, just because I could, just because the hot water didn't run out after 5 minutes. When I finally crawled into bed, wearing my 1 pair of decent pajamas, I expected to lie awake for hours, my mind spinning with anxiety and doubt. Instead, I was asleep within minutes. My body finally allowed to rest. I woke to sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows and the smell of coffee. For a disoriented moment, I thought I was still dreaming. Then memory crashed back Alessandro. The job offer, the suite that was bigger than my entire apartment. A knock at the door made me sit up, hastily smoothing my hair. "Come in?" Catherine entered with a tray coffee, fresh fruit, croissants that were still warm. "Good morning, Elena. Mr. Rossi asked me to bring you breakfast. He'll meet you in his office at 10. If that works for you?" I glanced at the clock. 8:30. "Yes, that's perfect. Thank you." She set the tray on the bedside table, then turned to me with a softer expression. "I've worked for Mr. Rossi for 8 years. He's a good man, Elena. Complicated, dangerous sometimes, but good. You're safe here, and so is your baby. I promise you that." The words brought unexpected tears to my eyes. "Thank you," I whispered. After she left, I ate slowly, savoring every bite of food that I hadn't had to steal time from sleep to earn. The coffee was perfect, rich and smooth. The fruit was fresh, not the bruised, discounted stuff I usually bought. The croissants melted in my mouth. This was my life now. I had to keep reminding myself it was real. At 9:45, dressed in my least worn work clothes, black pants, and a blue blouse that was getting tight around my growing belly, I made my way downstairs. Catherine met me in the hallway, guiding me through the house to a wing I hadn't seen the night before. "Mr. Rossi's office," she said, knocking once before opening the door. "Elena's here." Alessandro's office was all dark wood and leather, with windows overlooking the grounds and walls lined with books that looked well-read rather than decorative. He sat behind a massive desk, reading something on his computer, but he looked up immediately when I entered. "Elena, good morning. How did you sleep?" "Better than I have in months," I admitted. "Good." He gestured to the chair across from his desk. "Please, sit. Would you like more coffee?" "I'm okay, thank you." He studied me for a moment, his expression unreadable. "I'm going to be direct with you, because I think you appreciate honesty. This position is real. I do need someone to manage the household. But it's also an opportunity for me to ensure you and your baby are taken care of. Consider it compensation for Vanessa's cruelty." "I don't need charity," I said, more sharply than I intended. "And I'm not offering it." His voice was calm, patient. "I'm offering you a job you're qualified for, at a salary that reflects both the work and the discretion required. You'll earn every dollar, Elena. I promise you that." I nodded slowly, some of my defensiveness easing. What exactly would my duties involve? For the next hour, Alessandro walked me through the household operations, managing cleaning staff who came 3 times a week, coordinating with the chef who prepared meals, overseeing maintenance and repairs, handling his calendar for personal appointments. It was administrative work, organizational work, nothing I couldn't do. "The challenging part," he said, leaning back in his chair, "is that my work often requires discretion. There will be meetings here, conversations you'll overhear, people you'll meet who are involved in less than legal enterprises. You can never discuss what you see or hear with anyone outside this house. Can you do that? Yes, I said without hesitation. I understand confidentiality. Even if authorities ask questions? Even if someone tries to threaten or bribe you? I met his eyes steadily. I protect the people who protect me. That's how loyalty works. Something shifted in his expression. Approval, respect, maybe something deeper. Good. Then I have one more thing to discuss. He pulled a folder from his desk drawer, sliding it across to me. Health insurance. Effective immediately. I've already contacted an OB/GYN practice in town. One of the best. They're expecting your call to schedule your next prenatal appointment. I opened the folder, seeing insurance cards, medical information, a business card for Dr. Sarah Chen at Greenwich Medical Associates. My throat tightened with emotion. Alessandro. Your baby deserves the best care, he said quietly. And so do you. I couldn't stop the tears that spilled over, running hot down my cheeks. I don't know how to thank you. You already did. You trusted me. He stood, moving around the desk to hand me a tissue. Now, let me show you the rest of the house, introduce you to the staff, and we'll get you settled properly. The tour took 2 hours. The house had 5 bedrooms, each with its own bathroom, a home gym, a library, a wine cellar, a theater room, a kitchen that belonged in a restaurant, and everywhere, touches of unexpected warmth, fresh flowers in vases, photographs of what must have been Alessandro's family, books left open on side tables as if someone had just set them down. The staff consisted of Catherine, Marco, who doubled as driver and security, a chef named Thomas who came in daily to prepare meals, and a cleaning crew that Alessandro made clear reported to me now. They all treated me with respect, taking their cue from Alessandro's obvious regard for me. By the time we finished, my feet ached and exhaustion was creeping back. But it was a good exhaustion, the kind that came from possibility rather than desperation. Rest this afternoon, Alessandro said as we returned to the main living area. Tomorrow, we'll start properly. For today, just settle in, explore, make yourself at home. Where's your room? The question slipped out before I could think better of it. His eyebrows rose slightly. 3rd floor. The entire floor is my private space. Why? Just wondering. I felt heat creep into my cheeks, in case of emergencies or something. A smile played at his lips. If you need me, use the house phone. I'm always available. He left me there, disappearing into his office for a conference call. I wandered back upstairs, exploring my suite more thoroughly in the daylight. The closet had built-in drawers, a jewelry organizer, shoe racks that would never be full because I owned 3 pairs of shoes. The bathroom had a separate shower and tub, both with jets and settings I didn't understand. And everywhere, windows that let in light and showed me a world I'd never imagined being part of. I was unpacking my suitcases, hanging up my pathetic wardrobe, when Catherine knocked and entered with several large shopping bags. Mr. Rossi asked me to pick up a few essentials for you, she said, setting them on the bed. Maternity clothes, mostly. I had to guess your size, but there are receipts if anything doesn't fit. I opened the first bag and nearly gasped. Designer maternity jeans, soft sweaters, dresses that would accommodate my growing belly. Real maternity clothes, not the oversized regular clothes I'd been making do with. There must have been thousands of dollars worth of clothing. Catherine, this is too much. Elena. She put a hand on my shoulder, her expression kind but firm. Mr. Rossi takes care of his people. Let him. You'll insult him if you refuse. So I nodded, blinking back tears that seemed to come too easily these days, and let her help me organize the new clothes in my empty closet. By the time she left, I looked like a person who belonged in this house, who had a right to be here. That night, I joined Alessandro for dinner, my first official duty, he said with a smile. Thomas had prepared chicken piccata with roasted vegetables and risotto that tasted like heaven. We ate in a dining room with a table that could seat 12 but felt intimate with just the 2 of us at one end. Tell me about yourself, Alessandro said as we ate. Beyond the basics in your file, there's not much to tell, I said. I grew up in Hartford. Parents died when I was 12, car accident. I went into foster care, aged out at 18. Worked my way through community college. Met a guy, thought we'd build a life together. Got pregnant, and he disappeared. His loss, Alessandro said quietly. I looked up, surprised by the vehemence in his voice. Any man who abandons his child is a coward. he continued. You and your baby are better off without him. That's what I tell myself, I admitted. But some days, it's hard to believe it. Those are the days you call me, he said, his eyes intense on mine. The days when it feels like too much. When you need someone to remind you how strong you are. You call me Elena, day or night. I mean that. The sincerity in his voice made my chest ache. Why do you care so much? You barely know me. I know enough. He set down his fork, giving me his full attention. I know you work harder than anyone should have to. I know you're loyal and brave and fighting for something bigger than yourself. And I know that if I don't help you, if I let you drown when I have the resources to save you, then I'm no better than the people I despise. We finished dinner in comfortable silence, and afterward, Alessandro walked me to the stairs leading to my suite. Good night, Elena, he said softly. Sleep well. Good night, Alessandro. I climbed the stairs, feeling his eyes on me until I turned the corner. In my suite, I stood at the window, looking out at the grounds lit by subtle landscape lighting, and allowed myself to believe that maybe, just maybe, everything was going to be okay. The baby kicked, and I smiled, pressing my hand to the spot. Yeah, I whispered. I think so too. The next 3 weeks passed in a blur of routine and unexpected contentment. I woke each morning to breakfast delivered by Catherine, spent my days managing the household with an efficiency that surprised even me, and had dinner with Alessandro most evenings when he wasn't traveling or buried in meetings. He was gone often, sometimes for days at a time, but he always called to check in, to ask how I was feeling, if the baby was active, if I needed anything. When he was home, I found myself looking forward to those dinners, to the conversations that ranged from books to politics, to his childhood memories of his mother. We never talked about Vanessa. I knew they were still engaged. Catherine had mentioned wedding planning continuing, though Alessandro never discussed it with me. I told myself it didn't matter, that my feelings for him were simply gratitude mixed with proximity. But late at night, alone in my enormous bed, I couldn't deny the truth. I was falling for Alessandro Rossi, and it was the most foolish thing I could possibly do. My 20-week ultrasound was scheduled for a Thursday morning. Alessandro had been in Boston for 3 days, and I didn't expect him to be there. But when Marco pulled up to the medical building, Alessandro was waiting outside, leaning against his own car with his hands in his pockets. What are you doing here? I asked as he opened my door, helping me out with a hand at my elbow. Finding out if I'm getting a niece or nephew, he said with a smile. That is, if you're finding out the sex today? I am, I admitted. But Alessandro, you don't have to. I want to. His hand moved to the small of my back, guiding me toward the entrance. Unless you'd prefer to do this alone? No, I said quickly, too quickly. I'd like you there. The ultrasound room was dimly lit, the technician, friendly and efficient. I lay back on the examination table, my shirt pulled up to expose my rounded belly, 20 weeks now. Unmistakably pregnant. Alessandro sat in the chair beside me, his eyes fixed on the screen as the technician spread gel across my skin. There we are, the technician said as the image appeared, a tiny human, curled and perfect, sucking its thumb. Baby looks great. Good size. Strong heartbeat. Would you like to know the sex? I looked at Alessandro, finding him already watching me, something soft and tender in his expression. Yes, I whispered. Congratulations, the technician said with a smile. It's a girl. A girl. I was having a daughter. The tears came without warning, sliding down my temples into my hair. Alessandro's hand found mine, his fingers lacing through mine and squeezing gently. A girl, I breathed. I'm having a girl. She's beautiful, Alessandro said, his voice rough with emotion I didn't understand, just like her mother. I turned my head to look at him, and the expression on his face, as he stared at the screen, wonder and fierce protectiveness, and something that looked almost like longing, made my heart stutter in my chest. We left the medical building with a folder full of ultrasound photos, and Alessandro was quieter than usual as Marco drove us back to the house. I kept sneaking glances at him, trying to decipher his mood, but his expression was shuttered, distant. Are you okay? I asked finally. He turned to me, seeming to come back from wherever his thoughts had taken him. I'm fine. Just thinking. About? He was quiet for a long moment. About how lucky your daughter is to have a mother willing to fight for her the way you do. The words settled warm in my chest. Thank you for being there today. It meant a lot to me. His hand covered mine on the seat between us, There's nowhere else I would have been. That evening, I found a package outside my suite door. Inside was a white teddy bear, impossibly soft, with a pink ribbon around its neck. The card read simply, "For your daughter." I held the bear against my chest and let myself cry for joy, for fear, for the impossible situation I'd found myself in, falling in love with a man who belonged to someone else. Everything changed on a Tuesday. I was in Alessandro's office, organizing files as he'd asked, when I heard voices in the entry hall. Vanessa's voice, sharp and demanding. "Where is he? Alessandro, I know you're here." I froze, my heart hammering. In the 3 weeks I'd been living here, Vanessa had never visited. Alessandro had been careful to keep his worlds separate, to protect me from whatever drama existed between them. "Elena." Alessandro appeared in the doorway, his expression grim. "Go upstairs. Stay in your suite until I come get you." "What's wrong? Just do it, please." The urgency in his voice propelled me into motion. I slipped out through the back hallway, making it to the stairs just as I heard Vanessa storm into the main living area. I should have kept going, should have gone to my room and closed the door as Alessandro had asked. But something, curiosity, fear, a need to know what I was caught in the middle of made me stop on the landing, hidden from view but able to hear every word. 3 weeks, Alessandro." Vanessa's voice was shrill with fury. "You haven't returned my calls. You've canceled dinner twice. And now I find out you're living here with some pregnant maid?" "Elena is my household manager," Alessandro said, his voice dangerously calm. "Her living situation is none of your concern." "None of my concern. I'm your fiancée. Are you?" The question hung heavy in the air. Because lately, Vanessa, I've been questioning whether this engagement is something either of us actually wants, or if it's just our families pushing us together for business reasons. Silence. "Then, you're not seriously considering calling off the wedding because of her?" "This isn't about Elena. This is about the fact that you fired a pregnant woman for being lazy when she was working 3 jobs to survive. It's about the fact that you lack basic compassion for people you consider beneath you. It's about realizing that I don't like who I am when I'm with you." "You bastard." Vanessa's voice dropped to something venomous. "Do you have any idea what my father will do when he finds out you're backing out of this marriage?" "The alliance between our families can survive without a wedding," Alessandro interrupted. "I've already spoken with your father. We've come to an arrangement that's mutually beneficial and doesn't require me to marry someone I don't love." The words hit me like a physical blow. He didn't love her. He'd never said it explicitly, but hearing it confirmed made something in my chest unfurl, hope blooming where it had no right to exist. "Fine," Vanessa spat. "Keep your little charity case. But when she realizes what you really are, when she sees the darkness you're capable of, she'll run just like everyone else does. And you'll be alone, just like you deserve." Footsteps, the slam of a door, the engine of a car starting and fading into the distance. I waited, barely breathing, until Alessandro's voice drifted up the stairs. "Elena, I know you're there. You can come down now." Shame and embarrassment flooded through me as I descended the stairs. Alessandro stood in the living room, his back to me, tension radiating from every line of his body. "I'm sorry," I said quietly. "I should have gone to my room like you asked." "It doesn't matter." He turned to face me, and I was shocked by the raw vulnerability in his expression. "You would have found out eventually anyway. You ended your engagement. I ended something that should never have begun." He ran a hand through his hair, mussing it for the first time since I'd known him. "Vanessa was right about one thing. Our families arranged the marriage for business purposes. I agreed, because it made sense, because I didn't think I was capable of the kind of love that would make me want anything different." His eyes found mine. I was wrong. My heart stopped, started again, racing. "Alessandro, I'm not asking you for anything," he said quickly. "You're vulnerable, dependent on me for your livelihood and your baby's security. It would be unconscionable for me to pressure you or expect anything from you. But I need you to know the truth. I need you to understand why I can't marry Vanessa, why I can't pretend anymore." I crossed the room slowly, each step feeling monumental. "What's the truth, Alessandro?" "That I think about you constantly," he said, his voice low and rough. "That watching you become a mother, seeing your strength and courage, has made me want things I never thought I'd want. A family, a real home, a future that's about more than just business and obligations." He took a shaky breath. "But most of all, Elena, I need you to know that you've changed me. You and your daughter have made me want to be better, to build something worth protecting. And whether or not you ever feel the same way about me, I'll spend the rest of my life making sure you both are safe and cared for." Tears streamed down my face, hot and fast. "You're an idiot." He blinked. "What?" "You're an idiot if you think I don't feel the same way." I closed the remaining distance between us, looking up into his stunned face. "I've been falling for you since that first morning in your office. Every dinner, every conversation, every time you asked about the baby or made sure I was taking care of myself, I fell a little more. And it terrified me because you were engaged, because this is your house and your money and your world, and I was just the pregnant woman you took pity on." "Pity?" His hands came up to frame my face, his thumbs wiping away my tears. "Elena, what I feel for you has nothing to do with pity. You're the strongest person I've ever met, the most genuine, the most beautiful, inside and out." "I'm pregnant with another man's baby," I whispered. "You're carrying my daughter," he corrected fiercely. "Not biologically, maybe, but in every way that matters in my heart. In my mind, she's mine, if you'll let me be her father. If you'll let me be the man who protects you both, who loves you both, who builds a life with you." Alessandro. His name was a prayer on my lips. Yes, yes, to all of it. When he kissed me, it was everything and nothing like I'd imagined. Gentle but intense, reverent but passionate, a claiming and a surrender all at once. I melted into him, my hands fisting in his shirt, my pregnant belly pressed against his hard abdomen, and felt something in my soul click into place. This was home. We broke apart slowly, reluctantly, and Alessandro pressed his forehead to mine. "I need to tell you something else. Something about my family, about who I really am." "I know who you are," I said softly. "You know what I am. You don't know the extent of it." He pulled back, his expression serious. "My family controls most of the shipping and distribution on the East Coast. We have connections to elected officials, judges, law enforcement. We move goods, some legal, some not, and we do whatever is necessary to protect our interests and our people." He took my hand, placing it over his heart. "I've hurt people, Elena. I've made decisions that resulted in deaths. I've done things that would horrify you if you knew the details. And if you choose to walk away right now, I'll understand. I'll still make sure you and the baby are taken care of, still give you everything I promised. But I won't lie to you about who I am." I studied his face, the hard lines, the shadows in his eyes, the weight of responsibility and choices made. "Do you hurt innocent people?" "Never." "Do you protect the people who depend on you?" "Always." "Then I don't need to know the details." I squeezed his hand. "I need to know that you'll keep me and my daughter safe, that you'll be honest with me, and that you won't expect me to become something I'm not. I love you exactly as you are," he said simply. "I wouldn't change a single thing." The baby kicked hard, as if agreeing, and Alessandro's eyes widened. "Was that she?" "Likes your voice," I said, guiding his hand to the spot where my daughter was performing acrobatics. "She's been more active since the ultrasound." His expression transformed into something approaching awe as he felt her move beneath his palm. "Hello, little one," he murmured. "I'm Alessandro. I'm going to be your father. If that's okay with you and your mama." Another kick. Stronger this time. We both laughed, the tension breaking, replaced by joy so pure it made my chest ache. "She approves," I said. "Good." Alessandro pulled me close, his arms encircling me carefully, protectively. "Because I'm not going anywhere. Ever." The next few weeks were a whirlwind of change and adjustment. Alessandro's announcement that he'd ended his engagement sent shockwaves through both families. But he handled it with the same calm authority he brought to everything else. The business arrangement with the Castellanos remained intact, though Vanessa made it clear she wanted nothing to do with either of us. I was fine with that. Dr. Chen confirmed that both the baby and I were healthy, thriving even. Alessandro attended every appointment, asked questions, took notes, and held my hand through the glucose test that made me want to die. He insisted on converting one of the guest rooms into a nursery, hiring a designer who worked with me to create a space that was both beautiful and practical. Soft gray walls, white furniture, a rocking chair positioned to catch the morning sun. Alessandro built the crib himself, refusing help despite Marco's offers, determined that his daughter's first bed would be assembled by her father's hands. We didn't talk about marriage, didn't discuss what our future looked like beyond the immediate, the baby coming, my continued role managing the household. the family we were building one day at a time. But I felt it in every touch, every glance, every good morning and good night. Alessandro loved me with the same intensity and devotion he brought to everything else, and I loved him back with a fierceness that sometimes scared me. The danger didn't come from Vanessa or her family. It came from a direction none of us anticipated. I was 32 weeks pregnant, moving slowly through the house one afternoon while Alessandro was in the city for meetings, when the doorbell rang. Catherine was out running errands. Thomas didn't come until evening, and Marco was with Alessandro. I was alone. I opened the door to find Marcus standing on the porch. My ex, the man who'd abandoned me and our baby. The man I hadn't seen or heard from in 6 months. Elena. He looked different, thinner, older, with dark circles under his eyes and clothes that hung loose on his frame. Can we talk? Every instinct screamed at me to slam the door in his face. But curiosity and the need for closure made me step back. 5 minutes. In the entry hall. You don't come inside any further. He nodded, stepping into the marble foyer and staring around with obvious shock. Jesus, Elena. What is this place? What do you want, Marcus? He had the grace to look ashamed. I heard you were living here. With Alessandra Rossi. He turned to me. I also heard you're still pregnant, that it's mine. She's not yours, I said coldly. You gave up any claim to her when you walked away. I know I fucked up. He ran a hand through his hair, a gesture I'd once found endearing and now found pathetic. I was scared, Elena. I wasn't ready to be a father. But I've had time to think, to grow up, and I want to be part of her life. I want to help. Help? I laughed, the sound bitter. Where were you when I was working 3 jobs, barely able to afford food? Where were you when I was sleeping 4 hours a night, trying to save enough for diapers and a crib? You don't get to show up now that someone else has done the hard work and claim you want to help. I know I don't deserve it, he said. But she's my daughter, Elena. Biologically, legally, she's mine. And I'm asking for a chance to prove I've changed. Fear spiked through me. Legal rights. Custody. The possibility of sharing my daughter with a man who'd proven himself unreliable and cowardly. Get out, I said, my voice shaking. Get out, and don't come back. Elena, she said, get out. Alessandro's voice, cold as ice, came from behind Marcus. I looked past my ex to find Alessandro standing in the doorway. Marco behind him, both men radiating lethal intent. Marcus turned, and the color drained from his face when he saw Alessandro. Mr. Rossi, I just wanted to talk to Elena about my daughter. Your daughter? Alessandro moved past Marcus, as if he weren't there, coming straight to me and pulling me into his side, his arm protective around my shoulders. Elena, are you okay? I nodded, not trusting my voice. Alessandro turned his attention to Marcus, and the temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Let me be very clear about something. Elena's daughter is under my protection. That makes her my daughter. And if you think you're going to show up after months of abandonment and claim parental rights, you're going to find yourself in a legal battle that will destroy you financially, professionally, and personally. You can't threaten me, Marcus said, but his voice shook. That wasn't a threat. It was a promise. Alessandro's voice was soft, deadly. You had your chance to be a father. You chose to run. Elena has built a life without you, and her daughter will have everything she needs, love, security, a family without you. He took a step toward Marcus, and I felt the power rolling off him, the danger that was usually so carefully controlled. If you come near Elena or her daughter again, if you try to file for custody or visitation, if you so much as speak their names, I will make your life a living hell. Do you understand me? Marcus nodded jerkily, backing toward the door. I understand. Good. Marco will escort you off. The property. And Marcus? Alessandro waited until my ex turned back. Consider yourself lucky that Elena asked you to leave before I had to make you. Marco dragged Marcus out, and the door closed with a definitive click. I sagged against Alessandro, my legs suddenly weak, my hands shaking. Hey! Alessandro turned me to face him, his hands gentle on my arms. You're okay. He's gone. What if he comes back? The words tumbled out in a rush. What if he files for custody? What if a court decides he has rights to her just because of biology? Then we'll fight him, Alessandro said firmly. With every resource I have, every lawyer I can hire. But Elena, he won't win. Men like Marcus, weak, cowardly, opportunistic. They don't fight when things get hard. He saw an opportunity for easy money or relevance. And when he realized it would be a battle, he ran, just like he did before. I pressed my face against his chest, breathing in his scent, letting his solid presence calm my racing heart. I'm scared. I know. His hand came up to stroke my hair. But you're not alone anymore. You'll never be alone again. The baby kicked, hard enough that Alessandro felt it through both our bodies. He laughed, the sound breaking the tension. See? Even she's telling you not to worry. She knows her father will protect her. I looked up at him, this dangerous, powerful man, who'd become my safety and my home. Her father, I repeated softly, if you'll have me. His expression turned serious. I know it's fast. I know we've only known each other a few months. But Elena, I want to be her father in every way that matters. I want to be there when she's born, when she takes her first steps, when she says her first words. I want to teach her to ride a bike and threaten her first boyfriend and walk her down the aisle someday. Tears spilled over, running hot down my cheeks. Yes, I whispered. Yes to all of it. He kissed me then, deep and claiming, and I kissed him back with everything I had, gratitude and love and hope for a future I'd stopped believing I could have. When we broke apart, Alessandro kept me close. His hand splayed possessively over my belly where our daughter grew stronger every day. There's something else, he said. He said, something I want to ask you, but I need you to know you can say no. That you're not obligated. That I'll understand. Alessandro. I put my fingers over his lips. Just ask. He took my hand, turning it over to kiss my palm, then my wrist, then the ring finger of my left hand. Marry me, Elena. Not because of the baby, not because you work for me or live in my house. Marry me because I love you, because you've made me believe in second chances, because I can't imagine my life without you in it. My heart felt too big for my chest, like it might burst with the force of what I felt for this man. I don't have a ring to give you in return, I said, my voice thick with tears. I don't need a ring. His eyes were bright, hopeful. I just need you. Then, yes, I said, laughing and crying at the same time. Yes, I'll marry you. Yes to everything. He pulled a small box from his pocket. He'd been carrying it, waiting for the right moment, and opened it to reveal a ring that took my breath away. Not ostentatious or massive, but perfect, a single diamond on a delicate platinum band, with smaller stones set along the sides. It was my mother's, he said softly, sliding it onto my finger where it fit as if made for me. She would have loved you, would have loved that her ring is going to the woman who gave me back my humanity. I couldn't speak, could only throw my arms around his neck and hold him as tightly as my pregnant belly would allow. He held me back, one hand cradling my head, the other protectively over our daughter, and I knew with absolute certainty that I was exactly where I was meant to be. Our daughter was born on a snowy December morning at 6:47 a.m., after 16 hours of labor that Alessandro endured with more grace than I did. He held my hand through every contraction, whispered encouragement when I wanted to give up, and cried when the doctor placed our daughter in his arms for the first time. She's perfect, he breathed, staring down at the tiny squalling bundle with absolute wonder. Elena, she's perfect. We named her Sophia Grace Rossi, Sophia for Alessandro's mother, Grace for the miracle of second chances. She had dark hair like her father, the father who mattered, the one who chose her. And when she finally opened her eyes, they were the same hazel as mine. Alessandro held her for hours, refusing to put her down even when the nurses tried to take her for routine checks. He studied every finger, every toe, memorized every feature of her scrunched little face. I'm your papa, he told her softly, and I promise you, little one, you'll never want for anything. Not love, not security, not protection. You're my daughter, and I will move heaven and earth to keep you safe. Sophia yawned, utterly unimpressed by the declaration, and Alessandro laughed, a sound of pure joy that made my heart overflow. We were married 3 months later in a small ceremony at the house, with only Catherine, Marco, Thomas, and a handful of Alessandro's most trusted associates as witnesses. I wore a simple white dress that accommodated my nursing enlarged breasts, and Alessandro wore a dark suit with Sophia sleeping in a sling against his chest. Judge Rivera, a family friend, performed the ceremony in the living room where Alessandro had first told me he loved me. When he pronounced us husband and wife, Alessandro kissed me with Sophia nestled between us, and I felt our family click into place, whole, complete, unbreakable. That night, after Sophia was fed and sleeping peacefully in her crib, Alessandro and I stood in the nursery doorway, watching her chest rise and fall with each breath. "Do you ever regret it?" I asked quietly. "Giving up your old life, your engagement to Vanessa, the easier path?" Alessandro turned to me, his expression fierce with conviction. "Never, not for a single second." He pulled me close, my back to his front, his arms wrapped around my waist. "You and Sophia are my life now, Elena. You're what I was searching for without knowing it. You're my redemption." I leaned back against him, watching our daughter sleep, and felt peace settle over me like a blanket. "I love you," I whispered. "I love you more." He kissed the top of my head. "Thank you for giving me this, for giving me everything." Sophia stirred in her crib, making the tiny snuffling sounds that meant she'd wake soon for another feeding. Alessandro moved to lift her, cradling her against his shoulder with the ease of practice, swaying slightly as her eyes fluttered open. "Hey, Principessa," he murmured. "Papa's here." I watched them together, this powerful, dangerous man reduced to putty by 7 pounds of perfect baby girl, and knew with absolute certainty that we'd found our happy ending. Not the traditional kind, not the easy kind, but ours. Built on second chances and fierce protectiveness and love that had grown from the ashes of our broken pasts. Alessandro looked up, catching me watching them, and smiled a smile that was mine alone, that he saved for our quiet moments as a family. "Come here," he said, extending one arm to include me in their embrace. "Our daughter needs her mother." I crossed to them, fitting myself against Alessandro's side, one hand on Sophia's back, feeling her warmth, her life, the miracle of her existence. Alessandro kissed my temple, then Sophia's head, then my lips soft and sweet and full of promise. "Welcome home," he whispered against my mouth. And finally, after years of running and struggling and fighting just to survive, I was home. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you loved this story, check out the other videos on your screen now. I think you'll really enjoy them. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. See you in the next story.